Prediction video for UFC Fight Night Gustafsson versus Teixeira. Let's start the bomb. The first fight is Marcin Held versus Damir Hadzovic. And Damir looks like he's okay. He just doesn't look like he's great anywhere. I think Marcin Held, he's a really strong wrestler, jiu-jitsu guy, and I feel like his first two fights were both kind of weird. Like, I felt like he kind of won against Joe Lozon, and then he just didn't look amazing against Diego. But, even though he's 0-2, I think he's still a really good wrestler, jiu-jitsu guy, and I think he'll be able to get done this fight by decision or submission. Next is Darren Till versus Jason Ymir. And Jason's a guy, I think he's got another guy that's kind of well-rounded but not great anywhere. I think Darren Till's a really, really good striker. I think that he's just it's kind of weird. I think he's looked really good in the fights he's had, but he just doesn't have an amazing record at the moment because he kind of got hurt in his last fight and he got a draw. And I think one of his fights he lost a decision, and then the other one he got a knockout. But the two fights after that debut, he's looked really good. It's just he hasn't fought a lot, and it's because he got injured in that third fight, and he got a draw in a fight he was dominating, but then he got hurt and kind of got owned in the third. But he looks really good to me. I think his striking looks really amazing. I think Darren Till's going to win by knockout. Next is Nico Masoke versus Bojan Volchik. And Bojan Volchik is another one of these European guys who's got good jiu-jitsu, some decent striking, a little bit of wrestling. I think that's exactly how Nico Masoke is. The only thing with this fight is Nico Masoke hasn't fought in a long time, but I feel like if his skill level is still as high as it was, he should be able to win this fight because I think in every aspect of this fight, he should just be a little bit better. And I think Nico Masoke should be able to get this fight by decision. Next is Reza Madadi versus Joaquin Silva. And to me, Reza should be able to win this fight. Not super easily, but pretty handily. The only thing is he's taking this fight in like a week or two's notice. So, I don't know. He's always had really good cardio, so I don't know if that'll be a big issue. It's just, with him, it's just about being able to mix up the wrestling and the striking. Because the guys with a really strong takedown defense, he seems to have a really hard time with. But to me, Joaquin Silva is like a striker jiu-jitsu guy, and I don't know if he has the greatest takedown defense. I think that Reza should be able to hit the takedowns when he needs to and probably win by decision. Next is Trevor Smith versus Chris Camozzi. And this really is striker versus grappler, but the thing with Trevor Smith is he doesn't train full-time. He only trains every now and then, and it shows in a lot of his fights where he can't really consistently hit takedowns. And I think that's really going to hurt him against Chris Camozzi because I think Chris Camozzi is a way better striker than Trevor Smith is. And Trevor Smith's definitely the better grappler overall, but I think Chris Camozzi is good enough to where he should be able to get back to his feet. I've been wrong about that before. I mean, I've seen him lose fights that I thought he probably should have been able to win if his ability to get back up was just a little bit better. So hopefully he's been working on that because I think he should be able to win this fight pretty handily. But I'm going to pick Chris Camozzi. I think he wins by TKO or decision. Next is Pedro Mahuzo versus Damian Stikes. And Damian Stikes is a really good jiu-jitsu guy, and that's it. I think Pedro Mahuzo is way better striking. And I think grappling-wise, I don't even know if Damian Stikes is better, but let's just say they're equal. And that's the thing. If they're even on the ground, Mahuzo's going to eat him alive on the feet. I think he should be able to stuff the takedowns because Damian Stikes isn't a great wrestler. He's just a good jiu-jitsu guy. I don't think he'll necessarily be able to take this fight to the ground. And I think Mahuzo will probably win by knockout in the first round. Next is Jack Hermansson versus Alex Nicholson. And Jack Hermansson's kind of like a striker with a little bit of grappling. I think his wrestling's especially underrated. He just kind of got dominated by a really big middleweight in his last fight. I honestly think he should drop down to welterweight because he's not that big of a guy. Alex Nicholson's got the same thing. His record's 6-2, but he's a really good striker, and he was fighting at light heavyweight, and then he moved down to middleweight, which I thought was smart because he was not a big light heavyweight at all. And it's one of those things where I think Alex might be a little bit bigger, but I think Jack will have a huge advantage grappling-wise. And I think Jack has really good conditioning, and he should be able to push the pace on Alex. And Alex, just based on his last fight, his conditioning didn't look that great. So I think Jack will maybe lose the first, but then either win a 29-28 decision or get a late TKO in the third. Next is Oliver Mkap versus Nordine Taleb. And Oliver looks like a good jiu-jitsu guy, but, I mean, Nordine, I haven't seen this guy get taken down repetitively, And it's just one of those things where Nordin's a really strong wrestler, offensively and defensively. The losses he's had so far was that fight against Warley where he just got caught in a guillotine, and Warley's got probably one of the best guillotines at welterweight, so that's not a huge, thing. And then he lost to Santiago Ponzinibbio, who's also another amazing striker. But I think he's won 4 or 5 fights, and all of those fights he's been pretty dominant. I think that Nordin Talev's biggest strength is just that his basics are super perfect. Like, he doesn't really make a lot of mistakes. It's just people that are better than him at specific things are able to kind of beat him. But I think MCAT might be a better jiu-jitsu guy, but I don't think he's got the wrestling to take Nordin down. And he's also taking this fight in like 2 weeks' notice, so I think Nordin's going to eat this guy up with strikes and probably win by TKO. I can't really say this guy's name, so I was going to use his initials. It's ARA versus Amar Akhmadov. And Omari is a really good wrestler, but he gasses really bad. And I think ARA has a really good judo. And I think his takedown defense is going to look strong in this fight. In his debut, he looked amazing. He got a knockout in the first 30 seconds, and he's 7-0, and all of his wins are by knockout. ARA looks like a decent up-and-comer, and I think if he can just get through that first round and a half, like most people who have fought Omari, he's going to get a knockout, probably late second, early third. Next is Peter Sabata versus Ben Saunders, and this is kind of like a fight that I was talking about earlier on the card where I think Sabata and Saunders are probably about even grappling-wise, wrestling and jiu-jitsu, but I think Saunders has a massive advantage standing. I think that he's got way more power. I think that his overall technique and his willingness to trade is much higher than Sabata's. I think if Saunders can get this fight in the clinch especially, he'll eat him up with knees and elbows. And this is kind of how I see this fight playing out. I think that when they grapple, it'll look about even, and I think that eventually Saunders will either get back to the feet somehow or land on top, and when he does, he's going to probably win by knockout or TKO. Next is Volkan Ozdemir versus Misha Korshkov, or Kirshnov. And Misha's really amazing in my opinion. His 4 fights in the UFC, he's looked really good in all of them. And with Volkan, he looked really good against OSP. It was a really close fight, but I thought he won. But my biggest thing is when he came into the UFC, he had 1 loss by submission, and most of his wins were against no-name people. So it's one of those things where it's hard to tell how really good he is, because he's obviously an amazing striker, but OSP wasn't really trying to get that fight to the ground that much. He never really does. OSP really only shoots for takedowns when he's massively losing, or when the guy can't grapple for shit. I feel like Misha, even if Volkan's better striker, Misha's got really amazing wrestling and jiu-jitsu. I think this is a fight we're really going to see how good Volkan is. I think if Misha can take this guy down and hold him down, then Volkan's not going anywhere. He's never making it to the top 5. If Volkan can really keep Misha off of him, I think this fight could go either way, but I'm just basing this on his record before he came into the UFC, which makes me wonder how good his grappling really is. And I'm going to pick Misha. I think that he'll be able to hit a takedown sooner or later and probably win by submission. Finally, we've got Alexander Gustafsson versus Glover Teixeira, and this is one of those weird things where Gustafsson, he's finally starting to come back. He was out for a while. He won a fight earlier, I think the very end of last year, like December or maybe January, and Glover also just won a fight recently. Just basing on their overall performances, they both look the same against really lower level people. But to me, Gustafsson, he's got the range and the takedown defense. I think Glover has really been relying on his wrestling recently to kind of get wins. I think Gustafsson's takedown defense is too good, and I think that Gustafsson is the better striker overall. Glover said he's going to be working on his boxing, so you never know, but to me it's just one of those things where he's not going to be able to kind of take Gustafsson down repeatedly like he has his last couple opponents. So this is going to be a straight-up striking fight. And I just think Gustafsson's a little bit younger and closer to his prime, and I think Gustafsson's probably going to win by knockout. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Please like and subscribe.